Hey, episode 7, episode 8. I can't believe we're already at this point. We are not robots. That's one thing we know. And we also are learning a little bit more Ichi Go Ichi E. And we're going to not talk and like spill the tea, but we're going to learn more about tea. I'm telling you, this Mozart in the Jungle, episode 7 and 8 were two of my favorite. I think myself, the panelists, and we have two this time, may have shed a tear too. So let's get into it right now. Mozart in the Jungle. It is the after show. Boom.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Ooh.
What if nothing's right? Nothing ever happened.
I feel all the emotions, Linda.
All the emotions.
Sometimes I don't even know what I should think. I gotta listen to the music. I gotta feel the music. I gotta play with the blood. I gotta look at the blood. And we are Mozart in the Jungle, and we are the blood. Hey everybody, I'm Ronnie Jr., and we are getting ready for episode 7 and 8. We've got news and gossip and all these other great things from our wonderful co-host.
Hi folks, Linda Antwi here. Excited to bring you news and gossip.
Yeah, some of the things are within the cast or beyond. And you know what we're doing also, Linda, beyond that we've ever done? We are welcoming our third panelist co-host by way of the booth. And
Anthony!
Hello, everybody. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Yeah, I did say I caught up finally. A little too short, but that's okay. I'm going to be joining you for this episode and the next episode.
I love it.
Next 2 episodes.
It is great because Anthony has a wonderful perspective. And I don't know, Linda, are you like me where when you're at AfterBuzz, sometimes there's like 100 different people here and you're trying to like let them know about what you're working on. Mozart in the Jungle, I don't know that everyone receives it. So I'm always like constantly trying to let them know like, oh, you know, this is what it is. It excited me that Anthony knew and was like, oh my God, I love that show. So
I actually was outside of AfterBuzz, and a friend of mine said, you know, I watched your review and I started watching Mozart in the Jungle and I absolutely love it. And she's a creative type too, so it made me all warm and fuzzy.
yeah, very I wouldn't even say underrated because it definitely has its audience. The budget is there. But when you just talk about great shows, it needs to be at the top of people's lists. So I was so excited that Anthony was on board.
Yep. Great.
So thank you, Anthony. You were here. He's got a great perspective. He knows a lot. He's very wacky and all these things. So I can't wait. Episode 7 is We're Not Robots. Oh, and again, of course, we're going to do news and gossip, which will be fun. You brought in some tea. Should we get into that now, or do you want to move more for episode 8?
Well, it's really for episode 8, but I mean, if you do see our teacups here, these are really traditional Japanese teacups that I brought in with my little tea and our green tea that's Japanese green tea.
It was good because when Linda brought it in, I didn't touch it because I felt like because we watched these episodes, there was such a respect.
There is a respect with
I
tea
didn't want to
drinking.
just go and do it. So now we'll do it live on the air before we start episode 7. Now, you've done your part. Now, what am I supposed to do? Bring it in.
You're just bringing it in.
Okay.
You're going to twist your cup.
Okay. And I'm twisting it, like offering it, receiving it
Right,
from you.
receiving it.
Okay.
And then you're just going to sip it.
Okay.
And you're going to see how the green tea is different than the green tea that you're used to. It's delicious, isn't it?
I do like that.
I know.
And you said at the very end you're allowed to slurp
You're allowed
as
to
a
slurp a
sign of
respect
Okay.
that you enjoyed it.
I gotta tell you, I can't wait to get to episode 8, and I'm sure everyone also feels that way. But episode 7 was brilliant as well. This is called We're Not Robots. Coming off of Wham and what's gonna happen, this, that, and the other. Rodrigo takes the charge here, and we see him with his version of the Requiem. And definitely, as a viewer, we don't know how it's gonna be received. I wanted to get all of your perspectives of what you thought of that. Him just being bold enough to rework it and just take charge.
So what I thought was interesting with this, the opening scenes, the opening credits, is when it opens, we see flashback of Rodrigo and Haley frantically changing the Wham complete score. And basically what they did was they're like, we are not doing Wham, we're just doing Wolfgang. And up until the point of what Wolfgang completed with the Requiem, which I thought was a bold move considering they had so much at stake.
Yeah, Anthony, did you have a specific comment? Because you were telling me something while we were in the hallway about how you received Rodrigo's performance?
Yeah, it's a little long-winded, so I'm sorry about that, but bear with me. I'll try to go really fast.
Speak it, man. Speak it. Take your time.
Yeah, I saw a lot of like a symbology in it. So pretty much he does the original score, and to me, I think the original score represented how life is like how life actually is.
Okay.
Where sometimes you can be this great composer and be working on such a masterpiece, and then you die and it's unfinished. Just like how in life sometimes you can just die and leave so much work and so many things unfinished. And I felt it was like a representation of how life actually works. And it's and also the robot Wham, I found that it represents trying to go against the natural order of how human life actually is, in the sense that Wham is actually trying to rewrite history through analytics and thus making the score that is unreal and it feels unnatural. And I think it also touches on the inadequacies of the humans versus the robots, or also AI.
Yeah.
And how eventually that the humans will be taken out of the picture because of AI, and AI will take over. So that's kind of how I got it, where it's like a weird like power struggle between robots and humans, and how Wham is able to finish this score, but it's not what it's supposed to be. It's not what life actually is.
Right, because there's that je ne sais quoi part where you are assuming that this person is going to do X, Y, and Z, and they may not necessarily do X, Y, and Z. You're just assuming from previous actions that because they did this, they're going to do that. But because humans are humans and we're unpredictable, you can't really necessarily say for a 100% guarantee that this is what's going to happen.
Exactly.
I totally agree with you.
And that's why I think whatever Wham had proposed, what the Requiem was definitely something that was going to be hollow, while as what Rodrigo brought to it gave it more life than actually finishing it.
Right, because you know what, it left your imagination, because how you would have interpreted the ending is going to be different than how I interpreted it and how you interpreted it. So I think it was great that he left it the way it was instead of finishing the Wham version.
Yeah, because Wham has no condition. Like Wham is not living within the conditions of the artist, so we lose that. In the aspect of seeing Wham overboard, we also see a continued elevation of Gloria and Betty sort of butting heads. And that's going to be big into play because Betty seems to have Fuku's card, you know. We'll hear more about that later, of course. So I love how we saw, I think it was an episode ago or two, when they were sort of beginning their little battle, and now it could cause problems. Mind you, when we do this after show, we have not seen episode the two final ones. We watch it as we go, and then we recap as we go.
Well, it's a full-on battle because Betty quits the symphony board after this fight with Gloria, right? And we also know that Fukumoto is furious, so she basically sides with them, and she's like, "You and I are not agreeing since last episode that we watched."
Yeah.
So she quits, and what she does, you know, moving forward, which I'm sure you're going to get to. It's a big thing.
Yeah, it's good. It's a lot. Well, it's her and Thomas. Everyone has their own position with where this is going to go, because this is Rodrigo's big shakeup. You know, taking out Wham is going to cause some issues. One of the spiritual things that we got to go into this 100-year home with Haley and Rodrigo for the Tranquility. Very pivotal. He's out there burning the Requiem, sort of like finishing it all. It was like his interpretation of it's over. I did it the way I was going to do it. And it's right. That's what he was just moving on from the situation at hand.
He was basically, he was like, I'm done with this. I'm done with the Wham version. And you need to be rid of it. He needs a clean slate. He didn't want to see anything because for him, we got to remember that Wolfgang is one of his idols and is one of the people that appears to him. And for him to have this completed Requiem, he was not having it at all. So I understand why he was burning it.
Yeah.
Anthony?
Yeah, I kind of saw like a sacrificial gesture to the disrespect that he kind of
Felt.
that he felt and that he had to pay to Mozart. And also I also saw it as how like nature just should not be touched, you know, nature should not be messed with.
Yep.
Because that was the like he went against the natural order of things, and in doing so he lost his muse.
Yep. Agreed.
Right. It was like he was like, it's a sacrifice. It's a cremation. We are ridding this life that had been given for so many years, and now it's gone, as it should be. Now on the flip side, we see Haley kind of getting a call of her own. Now she gets a kabuki dancer named Okuni as her new vision, and I, as a viewer, could not be the better time. You know, I was just very excited that she was going to receive Okuni Okuni is the name, yes, Okuni, in that way, and it totally like gave her a jolt of history, specifically like the history of just even kabuki, inspired her in so many ways. She was amped up, and I love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, being female, I thought that it was important because here you have the history of kabuki and a woman who was not allowed to perform it, even though she created and started the art form. And then you contrast that to Haley, who is an up-and-coming conductor in a predominantly male industry. And I just think in this day and age, conquering, a male-dominated society, it just was a great parallel to me.
Anthony, did you have any viewpoints on just seeing another vision? Were you into another one, or have you kind of wore out? Because sometimes, breaking that fourth wall is not really the greatest, but how'd you receive it?
Oh no, I thought this was great. I figured that since they landed in Japan, there's been a sense of a reflection of our times with the whole Time's Up movement and also
Yep.
the Me Too movement that's
Yep.
been reflected in this show as well by having Haley go through this process of this competition. It's really mainly like it feels like it's like Haley against the men in power of the symphonies in a sense.
Yeah.
Of like the board of like looking at the board of the competition, it's mainly men, and there's only that one woman.
Yep.
And also, I a little funny thing about that whole interaction was that Izumono Okuni was actually speaking Japanese to her, and she understood it all.
And she understood it.
Yeah, I thought that was really hilarious.
Yeah.
But it's definitely touching on the oppression of women, especially because I believe Japan is very oppressive of their women. And so to have this American girl here show up and trying to, ram it down their throats, but that's a little later. But
Yeah, no, it's good because it's such pressure that she's gonna, sort of crash with later. And I do like the women aspect of it. We saw a little bit of that even when they went to the musical Ephemera, and she had the vision, and she was with all of the classical women and kind of explaining their limitations. And I think even in that moment, she continues to learn and see. Granted, she has so many things she's dealing with now, but she has sort of like these wheels to do things that other women couldn't have done. So that's good, but it's also hard within the pressure too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this whole season is about women empowerment, and specifically Haley and even Gloria. If we looked at the previous seasons, it was really about them supporting their men and them supporting the whim of their men. And we see in Japan that there's a break from that. Both Gloria and Haley really are fighting like the system, and the system being, like Anthony, like you said, male dominated, and with this Me Too movement and Time's Up, that's what they're pushing against, and you really see that in these episodes.
Yeah, and
in this season, I should say.
And I feel like even when we looked back and we're like, oh, are they going to get a season 4? Like, just as a viewer, I was like, oh, you didn't know. I, in my head, said, oh, there's no way the brilliance of this show doesn't sort of arc that in there. I actually had felt that before. I thought this was one. I mean, I'm a big fan of Amazon's Transparent as well. I think they got that Maisie. What's it, Maisie? What is the show? The woman, she's married, and then she gets. It's a cute show, really cute show.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
so I
about.
felt in my heart that Amazon would tackle this, and they're doing it brilliantly, and as you guys have both explained amazingly. A little humor is always great, though. Gloria and Thomas trying to calm themselves. I like how Gloria's like, I don't want to be calm, I want to be pissed. And, we all go through that kind of moment where you're just like, it's such a big deal, and she has not the hardest job, but she definitely has a hard job because she has to balance all of these artists. And now, that Rodrigo caused this issue with Wham, she's not even being in the moment with her man and the calming, hedgehog. She's like, she's not breathing it in. She's already focused on yet the next thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that that was a cute moment between the two of them, and showing how, again, important just standing up for yourself and being able to speak your mind. And if she's angry, she's going to be angry. And if she can't be subdued in that moment, then she can't be. But she has the right to feel the way she feels.
Yeah. when we saw Haley talk with Okuni, she was extremely inspired, and I thought the relationship was onto a good start. Like in my, I felt good about it. Rodrigo asked, "Can I go and watch you?" Because that had been something she didn't really want to happen in a couple episodes before. So it felt to me like, oh my God, everything's on the up and up. So I was, at least at this point, there was no tears in my head, in my eyes. I was still feeling really good. And then we get to round 2. What are you guys' thoughts on round 2 and how it transpired?
Where Haley makes the finalists. Is that where we are?
We're just right as the episode goes. Right as the episode, she had just got the call, the spiritual call from Okuni.
So where they're watching the rehearsals, right? That one.
This is round 2. Yeah, this is round 2 right now. This is right as the episode goes. What do you mean exactly? I'm not following. The next round. She's already from the last episode.
Round 2 was the rehearsals. Were they watching the rehearsals?
Okay, the moment that they left, it was after the evening, after she got the call from Okuni, spiritually, and they're about to set out on their day, and they're going to, perform with everyone else. And she's in there, and she's there. The judges are there. Gloria and Rodrigo, they're there. That's when Gloria calls her out.
Yeah. Okay. So then we were talking about the same thing. So that's where they watched the rehearsals. Mm-hmm. So round 1 was them just performing. The second round was they wanted to see how they rehearsed, and I thought that she did a great job. She made it her own.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, she's good for that. She's good for that passion. I think Rodrigo later tells her that, all of these things that went wrong, and that really, of course, frustrated her. But in this moment, things are going good for her. Mm-hmm. She does advance, and the hardest thing with that is that Yuki is going to now, have to tell her parents, and she's not moving forward. But then Yuki gives that pressure that there's only like 2 women out of all of these other male-dominated, as you were saying. And she has to sort of hold that pressure. So that was an immense amount of pressure, but it was a great moment between Haley and Yuki.
So that was my favorite moment of the episode. So Haley makes it down to the 5 finalists, and she gets the best pep talk from the sole female judge, which you're talking about is Yuki, pointing out that there are only 4 women out of the top 150 orchestras.
Was it 4? I thought it was only 2.
It's 4.
Which both are horrible, yeah.
Right. Of the top 150 orchestras across the world, and only 4 are led by women, and that she needs to, and I'm going to quote this, but not completely quote it, so it's kind of quoted, take the effing Mueller 6 and ram it down their throats. At that moment, I cried because you saw another female empowering another female and really supporting them and wanting them to do well. So I thought that was a really powerful moment. Anthony, what did you think?
No, yeah, I totally have to agree with you. I think that was one of a very special moment in the episode because you do feel that female empowerment. And in that instance, it's so powerful because I love how I can't remember the female.
The other contestant, right?
Was it Yuki, right? Yeah, although she lost, she wasn't angry about it or anything. She was just more disappointed in herself. And having Haley there just back her up was such a sweet thing. And on top of that, you see the other judge come up and be like, "Hey, I know why this is happening.
Yep.
And it freaking sucks, and this is what you have to do to get back at them, and you're our only hope now." And that's where that pressure comes. It's not even just about the orchestra, but it's more of a statement of women in the whole world.
Yep.
And it was a good sisterhood on both ends. I mean, for the girl Yuki to have this commentary and to put her real true feelings aside was strong. And even for Haley to be the first person I need to go see immediately is I got to check on her. That sisterhood was brilliant. And like I said, you received it in one way, and the very next moment you started to receive it is the pressure that Haley's now going to have on her shoulders, which is a bit challenging.
I think real quick also, I think it also sheds light on how just the oppression of women is around the whole world, because
that's what I wanted to say.
It's also it's Haley who's from America, but she goes to Tokyo, a completely different place, and yet the themes or the same struggle for women are still present on the other side of this planet.
Yes,
it's
and then what was beautiful about it is that in all of that, the same struggles. She was I need you to interpret this. And even though they don't speak the same language, that struggle, like you just said, is universal. It's universal, and we may not all see things the same way or speak the same language, but the struggle is a universal struggle that we can all understand. Oh,
Yeah.
it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It really did make me cry.
That was the scene. Yeah, when we were talking, you were telling me, because you had watched it before, and you're like, there's a part in episode 7, I started crying.
Yeah.
And you had me so intrigued for this episode just because, like, I was dying to know where those steps would lead us to, and that certainly was a very pivotal, strong, rough, difficult, all of these things wrapped up into one. And an idea that's going to stay with Haley way beyond and start, faltering, putting her mind into different decisions as well. Real quick, can we talk about how Rodrigo received Fukumoto's out-of-the-box commentary? He said that you weren't out of the box. So Fukumoto sort of shoved him off like, oh, because Rodrigo's there to make an apology. And sometimes when you do something wrong or you expect the other person to be mad, it's very weird when they're more so indifferent. And that's what Fukumoto was. He was very indifferent, but he did say the thing that got Rodrigo to the pit of his stomach, which was, I just thought you were outside of the box, meaning I thought you could do the work. I thought you could do the Wham version. And it seemed like it really hurt Rodrigo, and it hurt me. I was a little bummed that, that he was able to be attacked on such a personal place.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he said that intentionally. I think that he knows that Rodrigo does things outside of the box, but because he was so mad at him and he had his own hidden agenda, which it wasn't really about Wolfgang's Requiem. It was really about his Wham and advancing technology, because we have to remember that he is an engineer, and even though he loves the music and the arts, he's coming from a technological background, and Rodrigo is not, and so he wanted to hurt him where he would know that he understood that.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you look at Fukumoto, he's not of the art type, it's like Gloria, they'll as much as they want, they'll try to understand, how Thomas feels and how Haley feels and how Rodrigo feels, but they aren't in it for the same reason. They're in it for the same reason because she cares about the symphony and he cares about, creating Wham and the integrity that he feels that could be put into the Requiem, but they're not, he's a businessman in that case. So truly a different thing. Speaking of business, now that Betty has kind of Fukumoto in the back of her pocket, so to speak, or just influence, Betty talks with Thomas about like, well, there's other places donations could go to. So that was the moment that Thomas is basically sort of going behind Gloria's back.
Well, before that, so they meet in that bar, and Thomas offers her a position at the Queen's Philharmonic.
Yeah.
And then from there, that's where you see them kind of uniting forces and then using her relationship with Fukumoto to advance their agenda.
Yeah, I was a little just like, oh man, like it's great for Thomas, but they're really cutting out Gloria. So bad relationship move, but totally good for his reemergence of his new thing at the Queen's Phil. But it just made me want to watch more episodes. But since we vowed to only watch the episodes at a time, I was a little bummed because now I'm really dying to see what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Have you went on, Anthony, and watched more, or are you're with us at episode 8?
Oh no, I'm doing it like you guys, all natural. Yeah.
It bums
Week
me
by
out
week.
because once these things happen, I'm like, I need to know the payoff of that, but we don't right now. We have let's see, we've got Haley. She's preparing for the next stage here. Oh, quickly about Gloria getting mad or whatever. Gloria does learn quickly that Hesby's wavering too. So that's when Gloria finally gets this information, she's learning that Hesby might premiere the piece with Thomas. And then at some point, she's learning that Thomas also might be working with Betty. I felt so bad for Gloria in that way.
Yeah, I mean, she finds out about Thomas asking Hesby to premiere his piece at the Queen's Philharmonic instead of the New York one. And the reason why Thomas did that is because Thomas thinks that she's cheating on him. And this is where she finally tells him about the Guggenheiming.
The Guggenheim. It sounds like a
The
dance.
Guggenheim job. And this is where we find that she's not going to take the job because she's so mad that he actually is trying to snake Hesby away.
Yeah. And that's true, but I was almost wondering that if a couple of these things keep mounting on her, would she kind of get the pressure to maybe want to go and try something new? Because at some point that pressure is a lot, the potential donations not there. The Hesby piece might not be there. The rats. So I'm glad.
Maybe.
I'm glad that, like you said, they had that great conversation, so everything could be out in the open a little bit more. Because I always want Gloria to win. She's like my favorite of the show, I think. I know she's not on the show that much, but I love the way they work Bernadette Peters out in that situation. Do you guys want to talk about Haley's crumbling and choked performance? Thoughts, visions on all that?
Yeah, but before we do that, I also want to talk about where Haley asked for brutal honesty from Rodrigo after the second performance, and he basically gives it to her, and she wasn't really prepared to hear it. And I think that sets the stage up for the final part of the competition. I think that was a very important moment. Hey, what do you think, Anthony?
I gotta say that part kind of confused me a bit because I wasn't sure how to feel about it. I couldn't really read Haley's thoughts in that scene because the way it was edited, it's like he's dragging on and on about how all these things she could have done better. She could have done better, like just giving him tips and stuff. And I just wasn't sure how to interpret that. Is it that she's realizing that she's not as good as she thought, or is it realizing that maybe he has high standards that she can't live up to? I wasn't sure. I was at a loss at this scene. I gotta admit.
She may have hit one of those moments where she asked for something and got the exact answer. He's such a professional. He's going to give all of his input to make her the most amazing. She quickly internalized so much of it, threw it back at him and said, wait, all of that's just within the first 20 bars or whatnot. So I don't know that she asked for the truth. She wasn't necessarily ready for it. And she was still in such an emotional place that it really did wreck her, you know?
You guys have to also remember her history, and especially her history with her father. And anytime she auditions, she ends up choking, and she chokes because there was so much pressure from before from her father that do you guys remember as a kid the flashback
I was
scenes?
about to say that's such a great point that
Yes.
you just brought up, and I had forgotten about
Yes.
that. Now
So
it makes a lot more sense.
yes, so she is in desperate need for feedback because that's all she's ever been given from her father is critical feedback. But what she wasn't expecting is getting critical feedback from not only her lover and boyfriend and coach, but from someone that she's idolized for the past 3 seasons. So this was like a pivotal moment. This setting up the final competition and having him be so brutally honest is that was it. Like,
Well, and
So
that was
she
it.
was pretty much demoralized then because of that.
Well, and I felt
Exactly.
bad for him though
Okay.
because he didn't do anything wrong. He did exactly what was asked upon him. And the thing that bugs me in that situation a smidge is that because of what she has went through and because of the flashbacks we've seen, I always felt really like strong that she started to know her boundaries, so to speak, Linda. Like she would learn. Thank you for more tea. She would learn like, hey, I need you not to watch this performance, Rodrigo. I need you not in my orbit. The one time, as I said earlier in this episode, she said, he asked, can I watch you? Can I go? Can I come? She was like, yeah, you can come. So it felt like she had her emotions in check. And then it does sort of suck for both of them that now she asked for brutal honesty and her emotions weren't in check. Like that's something she brought upon herself. I'm not badgering the gal, but I just, you see what I'm saying? Like it felt as if she finally got it in order. She knew her boundaries, and this was one that it didn't go that way. How do you feel about that, Linda?
I think that she didn't know her boundaries. I think that she thought she got past her, I call it daddy issues, and her choking issues, but she really didn't. I think that she thought that he was going to say that she was brilliant and she did a great job, and that's why she's in the finals. But that's not what he said.
And I think the bigger question is, did she feel like she was brilliant? Did she, internally you have to know like where you stand with everything too.
Yeah, but you can think about it. You can think that you're brilliant and amazing. Okay, I'll do myself because that's just me. I can think that, you know what? I'm an amazing host and I'm an amazing co-host and I do so friggin' phenomenal. And then I can have
Me go in there and be like, hey, I need you to do this and this and this better.
yeah, or even worse, let's say because she's Canadian, I'll say Jillian Barbary, who was a morning talk show girl, and I think that she's amazing, and so I say, and Jillian comes in and says, no, you suck. Can you
Okay.
imagine your mentor telling you that, hey, you're not as great as you think you are?
Okay, but
That's crushing.
that would be crushing. He definitely did not say you suck. he was doing I'm trying to defend him because I feel like as much as this is Haley's story, like just you're saying that somebody's saying your craftsmanship or whatever sucks.
Which is what he said. He said it was like you didn't know what you were doing, but you loved the music and the passion took over, is what he said. So
he was just okay. Then I'm gonna just defend Rodrigo Smith. I'm not saying what you're saying is not correct because I totally get like and I feel so bad for Haley, but I do feel like he didn't. Okay, so that's the bigger question. Did you feel like he did something wrong? Did you, Anthony? Did you feel like Rodrigo expressed it wrong? That's how Rodrigo talks.
It's tough because he's such a sincere guy, so in his eyes, he's not doing anything wrong. But I think the bigger point is not to focus on him because the story's not about him.
That's it.
The story's not
That's
about
it.
him. It's about Haley. It's Haley's time.
that's it.
And
I know.
he's-
I know.
That's it. So, in essence, like you said,
It's tricky.
he's a pure at heart, and he doesn't mean harm. However, he's not thinking about Haley. He's thinking about himself because had he been thinking about Haley and known her history, which he does,
He would have given her the reaffirmation.
exactly.
He
Thank
would've
you.
Said, no, it's good. It's
That's
okay.
it.
Keep
Okay.
doing what
That's
you're
it.
doing. But no, he went up.
Yep.
He went up to her wall and took it down brick by
brick by brick.
So does that
Yeah.
mean
Yeah.
that you guys want people to gas you up?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you just said that he had a decision. He had a decision to tell her exactly what she wanted to hear, or he could have, sugarcoated it because of the sake of the.
I think there's a time and place for everything, and I
Exactly.
think that in this moment, which is a great segue to the Ichi Go Ichi E, where you only have one life and one opportunity. He knows that this is her opportunity and her time to shine. You know what? If you want to, what did you say? Gas her up, get her through this, let her win the competition, and then after she wins, sit her down and say, hey, this is what I think. This is where you can improve, and you're going to be an amazing conductor when you fix X, Y, and Z.
But I
Not
think
before the most important competition that she's been just rehearsing
True.
for.
Wait, you're missing my point though. I think he was doing everything right. Because he talks in a way that is, more challenging maybe for her to receive. That we can't. And mind you, if you two weren't on the opposite end, like I probably wouldn't have so much like forcefulness to push that my idea that Rodrigo is, not doing anything wrong in the situation. But because you guys are kind of not seeing it in the way, I'm trying to say like. Let's ask the question. Like, how did he do anything but
Okay.
push her to because to me, he gave her everything that would make her the best. He can't be responsible for the fact that she chose to choke. Like,
All right, here's the thing. They actually both messed up because if Haley would have been more observant of how she is herself, she would have done the competition without asking for any help with Rodrigo, and she would have asked him after the fact that she had done and completed the competition. She would not have done it before the biggest competition of her life when she knows she's going to choke. She knows she has a history of choking herself, but she wasn't able to see that at the moment, and she asked Rodrigo for that fact. And then at the same time, Rodrigo sucks at social skills, so he goes, are you sure you want to know the truth? She says yes, and gives it to her and breaks down those brick by brick. So they both kind of messed up, and hence it ends in catastrophe.
Yeah, I agree with you.
yeah, she choked. Go ahead. Yes.
No, I'm just saying, yeah, go ahead.
No. If you had a good point on it too.
No, I agree with him. I agree with what Anthony's saying. I think
Like,
we're
I
saying
don't-
the same thing.
I don't think there's no right side to this. I think it's just both. Like, I mean, I can sympathize a bit more with Haley, but I can also see where Rodrigo is coming from. Like, I know both sides, and I can explain one side a slightly better more because it has more depth to it. Because Haley has more depth to it because it was Haley's story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although Rodrigo, of course he didn't do anything wrong, but Rodrigo is Rodrigo. You
Yep.
know? Like, we know Rodrigo. This
Yep.
is Haley.
Yeah, and ultimately we just want the best art. And anyways, it was not the best art. So it was sad to watch, that she choked. You just kind of hope that doesn't happen. The scene was shot really well. It was really fun to watch, see the different emotions of her. Rodrigo totally getting when it fell off and when it fell flat and she didn't bring her best or choked. And then for a quick second, we see more of the guys pushing this Rodrigo's dead narrative. So we haven't got more on that story, but that'll come later. And then it just ends beautifully in a great visual of Tokyo, and she's lost in the city with her alcohol, sort of completely independent.
And my take on that is I thought that what was important when we see that she chokes at the finals is that she leaves her body. And as she's leaving her body and she walks by Rodrigo, there's a moment where he turns his head and it's almost like he felt her spirit go. And I thought that was so important, considering like that's your boyfriend and your coach, and we've seen your guys' journey for the last 4 years, and you felt her leave, you felt her not be in that moment, and I think that when we see them at the party and she grabs the bottle of whiskey and he's calling her highly, and she just keeps running and she's crying. I didn't take it as an independent thing. I think I took it more like she was so upset that she knew she choked and she knew she lost the competition, and she also knew that Rodrigo was a big reason why.
Yeah, she needed to be alone. She needed, and you said you cried over the episode. I felt like that was even a real sad, tougher part to watch too. Remember that episode where I said when Cynthia started breathing in right before she was going to start crying? I felt like I felt that emotion because that's how I am right before I try to deny myself of how I really feel. Haley gave me a little bit of that in that too, and like I said, beautiful Tokyo. I guess we got to move along. And a second ago, you were giving yourself an example of being a wonderful host. And
Yes.
you are. But there's another one.
I mean, the best host ever. And I mean, could she be my mentor? Maria Menounos. You want to have fun, learn, and grow in all areas of your life? For those of you who do, have we got a podcast for you? Conversations with Maria Menounos, podcast edition, is hosted by our AfterBuzz TV founder and drops every Friday on iTunes. Conversations with Maria Menounos features celebrity and influencer interviews, along with secret tips on how to be better in all aspects of life, from health and wellness to career and relationships, finances, and more. Let our Maria be the big sister you never had. Just go to iTunes and subscribe to Conversations with Maria Menounos for free. Be sure to rate and comment when you do, and let Maria know it was us, hello us, here at AfterBuzz TV, Mozart In The Jungle, that sent you there. Conversations with Maria Menounos, podcast edition. Check it out.
Now, because we were talking about giving advice or not, I believe Anthony in the booth has a little bit of something on that. Anthony, what did you want to say?
What was that? Oh, just a quick correction. It's Maria Menounos. Is a great podcast that should be listened to, and it drops every Friday. And again, it's Conversations with Maria Menounos.
What was I saying?
There might have been a D in there. There might have been a D in there.
I didn't mean that. I'm sorry if I said that. And because I was actually even just reading it, so my bad.
That's one of the charms about Maria. Two of the things that we know about Maria that have always been a charm. She's got a laugh like no one else, so that is signature. And when you go and don't know initially how to spell it, you're like, how do you spell it? How all those vowels together? But that is our Maria Menounos. Conversations with Maria Menounos is great. And I watched, we'll get on to episode 8 in a second. I listened to her latest one. It had experts who are into the world of pets and stuff. And I don't have a pet, but the podcast was so well, I was like, oh my God. Like I felt like I was learning stuff. Yeah, like I want one, or when I get one, I know like some of the things you should be doing for their health. So very layered. And then the last episode I told you was great too. But we gotta go. We gotta keep it going. Episode 8, Ichi Go Ichi E. I always say that, a little challenge, but thank you, of course, for our tea.
Absolutely.
So excited about this episode. This was so beautifully done. And like I said, when I watch a show, I watch it like quiet. I got the candles in the corner. Like I got my knees on the couch. Like picture it. I'm that guy. Like I'm trying to, feed the show and like taste it,
I wanted to just say something real quick, if you don't mind.
Of course.
So Ichi Go Ichi E, because I think it really sets up this episode, is a Japanese four-character idiom that describes a cultural concept of treasuring meetings with people. So it is one life, one opportunity, but it actually translates to one chance in a lifetime. And the term opportunity reminds people to cherish any gathering that you're a part of. So you may not have this moment again, so cherish this moment because it may not be repeated.
Oh, I like that. How each of these moments can have an impact and really, really taste it. Yeah, I keep saying the word taste and touch and like I'm really like I'm in that certain space right now. I love that. Thank you for the extra notes on it. And what I loved, we'll get into the tea ceremony in a second. We start the episode though with a little bit of this awkward car ride, and gosh, Haley just looks so perplexed. She is just She's not having it. Rodrigo is so classic him. Like, I don't know what's wrong. So it just opens up for a really fun episode, you know?
Yeah, I mean, she's pissed
Yeah.
and hungover, and he's indifferent. He doesn't know what's going on.
My
He thinks it's
second
fine.
viewing, I thought of that too. I was like, the first viewing, I was just, she's, trying to get to her emotions. Then the second time I watched it, I said, oh, that's right. Like, she also did get severely drunk too. So it's been a whirlwind experience because anytime you go through something, you're mad, and then you put alcohol to it, at an excessive rate, it's gonna make things harder the next day too. So I forgot about that until I watched it a second time. Beautiful Japanese garden. Everything had a rhyme or reason. Everything meant something. It was so fantastic, and I was really interested in watching the tea ceremony. I've not been there. You've got to go to Tokyo, so I've not. You got to feel it a little bit more than I would have.
I know, but still, it was still beautifully shot. Either way, you were in that moment with them, and those gardens are amazing. And I thought that the interpreter walking them through that first step of the ceremony where they had to wash their hands and mouth and purify their mind and soul just really set the scene for what's going on. Because what a contrast. You're purifying your mind and soul. Meanwhile, Haley's completely hungover and angry. So it's going to be interesting if she'd be able to really do that in a positive way.
Also, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I'm pretty sure Haley ends up not washing her mouth.
Yeah, she just washed her hands.
yeah.
Exactly. Yep. I caught that.
It was so good. Even just a takeaway for me, I'm like, we move as people so quickly, and I just those little rituals. If you could add, I mean, not that you're going to add that to your day, but little things like that to kind of refocus your mind were great. Because I would imagine that we had that situation today. We had a place to go spiritually cleanse our mouth and our hands. That would have been great.
I mean, that's a whole other conversation.
Oh.
I mean, we do have that. It just depends on, where you are in your life. But
What do you mean we have that?
we have that. I mean, but I don't think that this is the,
Oh.
let's move forward. But there are things like that in everyone's life where you can find that if you so
Well,
seek to choose.
The
to
traffic
find
is
it.
the antithesis of that, but yes, traffic is like the alternate experience. It drives me crazy. Anyways, we go through a little small door. I thought that was another like really fun part because it indicated that we all have to come into this space at the same level. That was really brilliant as well. And then we've got beautiful fresh flowers, and that's where we see the signage of One Life, One Opportunity. It was really cozy. I liked it a lot. But the awkward personalities were definitely kicking,
I thought it was, I thought it was beautiful contrast because from up until this point, this show is built around like the hustle and bustle of New York City, the orchestra, the grind, all of that. And here it was just like beautifully silent and it was reflective. So it was opposite to everything that we've ever seen. So it made it really, for me, very powerful because they both had to sit on the same level because, there's so much to it. Rodrigo's at this level, she's at this level. It's supposed to be her time now, and it's always been Rodrigo's time. And now they come in, they have to sit and be silent and reflect on the same level. What did you think, Anthony?
I thought it was like a safe space for them, and I kind of felt like it was like marriage counselor too. Yeah, like marriage counseling as well. But yeah, it was definitely like a very sacred space where they could, in a sense, tell themselves everything, and they kind of do it at the end.
I loved as you were talking about like even just like the pacing of it. I'm glad we didn't comb over it. I'm glad we like saw every when the tea was being poured, when the sweets were being offered, almost like what we did today. You showed me how to turn it. I liked that we took a moment to really look at that because that for me made me feel that sense of like, every time they would show Haley, she is a smidge awkward in the face or, like confused of what she's going to say. It made me like have a dual vision of it, like the peacefulness, but then also in the back of her mind, you could still read it.
Calamity,
Even though in that little space, you're supposed to not be, the whole goal is to not be able to bring those things in. But I mean, I guess they're like clearly there.
Yep.
Let's see. Okay, we're rushing through this episode, so we'll be done fairly shortly. And we got that great news and gossip coming up too.
I wanted to say, because there's so many parallels, and unfortunately I know we're running out of time, but where Rodrigo takes that first cup, it's transported into another world, and when he takes it and he has to say "wasaki me," which means "please excuse me for going ahead of you," that was like huge because that right there is the whole relationship between Haley and Rodrigo. That's the whole relationship right there.
I love that you said that. That was like literally the next aspect on the notes, how it meant more than what it meant. It meant more than just those words, excuse me, I'm going ahead of you. It meant exactly how they've done this whole thing since she waltzed in there, 4 years ago and auditioned, and their love emerged. He does sip the tea, and he has this vision. He's visited by 3 people in his vision. One is Haley, one is Rodrigo, one is Thomas. What are you guys' thoughts on what each of them had to do in that vision, or in his head, I guess is what it would be?
I think that he is he's coming to the realization that how he sees Haley and how Haley actually is not correct, and perhaps he doesn't know who she is and what she wants in that scene.
Yep, I completely agree with you on that point. Yes.
Yeah. Because for him to think that she wants motherhood, really, like that's what you think?
And
after all this, come on.
And the weirdest thing is it feels like he finally came to different conclusions too, because he had earlier portions where he was like, no, I don't need you, but I want to be with you. I feel like this season we've seen Rodrigo not even know specifically what he wanted, and I felt like he was finally getting there. So the fact that in his head he's completely off base was a little challenging. He also gets kind of whipped a little bit by Thomas, who gives him a same kind of timeline pressure that Haley has, because Haley always has these timelines, for her career, and we don't really see a timeline as far as pressure with Rodrigo. But I guess Thomas does put in his head, like, you're not going to be young forever. Fatherhood's the most beautiful thing. So I don't know how that'll be an effect on him later.
I mean, but then again, it just shows you again that he's not thinking about Haley. He's thinking about himself. Because that's thinking about yourself when you're like, oh, you're getting older and it's this and this. Well, what does Haley want in this moment? That's what you're missing. And you see that when she drinks the tea and has her own experience as well.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's not a bad thing that he is thinking of fatherhood. I mean, it's not like he's...
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying that in this moment, he is seeing Haley how he wants to see her, which was the whole point of that hallucination. It's not the true Haley and what she actually really wants, which you find out that he doesn't really know.
Yeah. Well, that's what the confusion is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, in addition to that, that's all. In addition to that. So you had very strong points on the Haley vision. You could just take the lead on that if you'd like.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Well, I wanted to jump to when he sees his own Rodrigo, is that pretty much the other Rodrigo tells himself to be honest with her. And also how the other Rodrigo suggests to him that he has to evolve. And to that, he says, I don't want to evolve.
Yep.
And I think that's a huge point in the whole thing. Because, and then also Thomas says, he tells Thomas that he feels comfort. And then Thomas tells him comfort's like the worst word or the worst possible thing you could be as an artist.
Artist, yeah.
And so I think it's gotten to a point where like Rodrigo is comfortable where he is, and he's not willing to move forward with anything. He's not willing to evolve as a person. He's not willing to evolve in his perception of what Haley actually is, and likes more of what he thinks she is.
Exactly.
And I think that pretty much sums up his whole vision, and he's practically delusional.
Yep, I agree. And on that, jumping on what Anthony is saying, she's drifting away, and Haley needs more than just comfort. She keep her opening vision at this time. It's my time. It's time for me. She wants to be the crazy one. She wants to be the one that travels and meets people. And she's angry. Like, you see that she's angry about it because she's, cussing it up. And then Lizzie appears and asks Haley the same question that Thomas and the alternate Rodrigo asked Rodrigo. What is it that you want? What do you want? And you can see her struggling. You know that she wants her career and she wants to pursue being a conductor. And then you throw in Anna Maria, and Anna Maria is where she is confronted with her emotions and her relationship with Rodrigo. And Anna Maria basically says, you're never going to be enough for him. You're not crazy enough. You're not talented enough. You'll never be what he wants. He needs or wants. And that is her subconscious messing with her, like, emotions. Go ahead.
Real quick, I have to agree with you, and I want to jump in there because she also said that he will drive you crazy
Yep.
to some certain point, and this is her going crazy,
Yep.
like right into their head. She's going crazy. She's like, I want to be mad. I want to be crazy. Like I want to be the crazy one at this point, and so it pretty much leads to she sees two sides of the same coin. She loves Rodrigo, and she knows he's the perfect guy for her, but in order for her to evolve, he has to shed herself away from Rodrigo pretty
Yep.
much.
Yep.
Because she also said that she's losing herself, so she has to shed the skin that Rodrigo has put on top of her, and that's the skin that Rodrigo sees and not what she actually is.
Yep.
And she seemed complicated with the idea of like being an individual, but then also like still being able to grow with him. Like
In a
that was
relationship.
a challenge. But the one thing of that I did love about her is that she did. I feel like it was built up that she would make that commentary that, you know, I want to be the one crazy. Like her even saying she was mad that she didn't win. Okay, that's natural. That's going to happen. But I do think this I'm crazy sort of indicating that he's the one who gets to have all the wild fun or whatever. Is that what it was representing? Because that's what it seemed like. I think it was good that she finally said, like, you know, I deserve that too, because I don't think she's actually like admitted that at all at this point. So that was, for me, that was like my favorite part. Any symbolism with the scene itself? Because like with her, she had like the petals on the floor. Did that mean anything in specific?
To me, no, but I mean, it
was-
possibly. Go ahead.
I think it was. Sorry, I'm so sorry I cut you off. But I don't think they were petals, weren't they? They look more to me like feathers.
Something though. It was different than his hallucination.
And it's more like it feels kind of like you pluck the feathers of a bird to really reveal what the bird is in a sense. You know, I don't know.
No, something. And hey, you take a tea takes a lifetime to master. So that's all that everyone is trying to do in this moment. Then they have a vision together. Why don't you guys go ahead and tackle that, or how'd you see that? Linda?
They walked together in the forest. The first thing that I saw that was important was that Haley was barefooted and Rodrigo had mismatched socks on, and that just said a lot to me because you're in the same situation, you're in the same moment, but you're walking that journey differently. Haley's walking it barefoot and vulnerable, and Rodrigo's walking it with experience and eccentric because he can be, because he's already there. That's how I took it. How did you take it, Anthony?
I mean, I didn't notice that before, but that completely makes sense. Yeah, because Haley's yeah, she's much more vulnerable and everything, and that completely represents that. And talking on Rodrigo's socks, I think it says that his life is just so convoluted and just so crazy that he is the type of guy who would wear mixed match socks and just go through life with just two pairs of socks never matching.
Yep. Yep.
And maybe that's why the people keep saying Rodrigo's dead, because he's not actually present, because he is so out there.
I really need to understand what's happening with that, because there's 2 episodes now where they just have not explained that. They both return to the present and each say they need to say something important to each other. And Rodrigo says he wants to start a family, and Haley says that she wants to break up.
And we saw it coming the whole episode, but it still hit you like a ton of bricks.
It really did.
when
It was very
happened.
sad.
Hit Rodrigo very hard.
Yeah.
I felt like I was in the moment. I felt like I was being talked to, you know, because you knew it was happening, but it didn't soften it,
It really
by
didn't
any means.
at all.
And then also, I think the nail in the coffin is that ending shot where you see Haley walking across the bridge, and then you see Rodrigo at the foot of the bridge, and I found that to be like very symbolic, and it's such a beautiful shot. I gotta say, by the way, it's such a beautiful shot. And it says that like Haley needs to advance. I wrote down Haley needs to advance in her life
Yep.
and evolve, while Rodrigo will continue to be the same guy, unable to cross that bridge
Yep.
to become the person that Haley needs him to be, or would love for him to be in order to love him completely. But he's not. He's just not there that yet. But there is a bright side, because Rodrigo does see the bridge, and he's at the foot of the bridge. But I just don't think he's ready for that yet. While Haley is much more mature than he is, and is on her way to crossing that bridge. And one of the things she had to do to cross that bridge was to let Rodrigo go and leave him at the foot of the bridge. And eventually, hopefully down the line, Rodrigo can cross the bridge and meet her on the other
I
side.
love that. Yes. Preach, Anthony, preach.
It makes me want to go watch the next 2 episodes now because it's so hard for us to not to know the
Well,
answers.
now we can.
Now we can.
Now we
right?
can. Now that we
Yes.
recited this
I
one.
know that we have run long, so my news and gossip, I think we should hold off to next week.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's totally
Okay.
fine because, it will still be news and gossip.
Oh, well, how about that? Okay. Predictions then, I guess, or do we have time for that too?
Let's just do some quick ones.
Okay.
AfterBuzz TV prediction.
You go first.
Oh my God, it's so funny. I was gonna say my predictions are there are no predictions because we are in a hurry. I just always want Haley to work through her stuff because again, so much is on her, and I just want her to know what she wants and her to continue to find the things that were from her past that haunt her and see what weigh those odds. You know what I mean? When they get back to New York, weigh those odds. What is more important to her?
Anthony?
I feel that there's going to be a fallout. There's going to be a fallout for both of them. I feel like Rodrigo might take it the hardest, or they both might take it the hardest. But there's definitely going to be a huge fallout. But who knows? Maybe through the pain, Rodrigo might be able to find his muse again, because he's
Ooh.
been in this funk this whole time.
Yep.
And it kind of started when started dating Haley. So who knows? Maybe because artists are so freaking weird, through pain they find great artistry. So who knows? But I know there's going to be a huge fallout, and I can't wait to be in my bunker and wait for the explosion.
I think that I love that. I think that Haley is going to find herself in all of this in the breakup, and I'm hoping that they get back together. So we'll see. That's my prediction. I wanted to leave you guys with this though, because it was a powerful line to me, and I wanted to keep it to the end, especially for this episode specifically. A bowl of tea is the universe held between the palms. Think about that.
That's it. Okay. Well, now we just gotta lightly say our names, but that was strong enough. I'm Ronnie, randomly RJ. Thank you.
Hi guys, Linda is so girly all across social media.
And I am Anthony Becerra. You can find me everywhere at Tony B Tony. It's Tony, and in the B, just the letter B, and Tony B Tony _. And I just gotta say, this is possibly one of episode 8. I can't remember.
Ichi Go Ichi E.
Ichi Go Ichi E is possibly one of my favorite episodes of the whole series, and my
Aw.
God, it was the most beautiful. And thank you guys for letting me join.
Yeah.
in on
Thank
this.
you
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
sharing everyone's. Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
Thanks guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.